The Diamond Mesh upper grill replacement that we have here today is a very popular option for the 2014 and 2015 Silverado 1500 owners who are looking to go with an affordable Baja-inspired replacement to totally change up the look of the front end while still retaining that iconic bow tie emblem. Now this grill will combine a durable ABS plastic build with kind of a satin black finish here, which can be painted if you'd like, but the grill itself is available here on the site at this time, right around that low $300 price point. So as I mentioned at the top of this video, guys, the Diamond Mesh style grill replacement is easily one of the most popular for this particular generation truck for the simple fact that it does deliver kind of that killer off-road inspired look that will help remove some of the chrome from the front of the truck in the process, all at a somewhat affordable price point. Now, if you've browsed the site here for a blackout grill option, chances are you've stumbled across quite a few, but in my opinion, I feel like this is gonna deliver maybe one of the cleanest looks when installed while still holding on to that factory or aftermarket Chevy emblem. Now, if you prefer to ditch the emblem entirely, go for maybe a cleaner shaved look, there will also be options available here on the site that will eliminate that emblem, again, for a slightly different look. Now switching gears and taking a closer look at the construction and build quality here, you'll notice things are made from a very durable automotive grade ABS plastic construction for both the mesh itself in addition to the grill surround. And then finally, it is given more of a satin black finish. Now the grill itself is designed to be a complete replacement for the factory upper grill. It is not an overlay, which I just feel makes for a much cleaner look compared to those more affordable overlay style grills. Now before we get into the install, I just want to remind you guys to check out some of the customer reviews in addition to the customer submitted images on this very popular grill. In fact, I would say there are dozens of 4- and 5-star reviews to read up on, along with checking out some of the nearly 100 customer submitted images, which give you a better idea of how this thing might look installed on your Silverado at home. Whether sticking with all black, some folks have color matched portions of the grill. There's a lot of different vibes going on out there with the grill installed from our customer base. So definitely check those out before making your final decision. Now moving into price point, and this option is gonna come in right around that low $300 mark here, give or take, which will be similar to other replacements on the site, but maybe landing a little bit higher on the spectrum due to the retention of the emblem and a slightly higher quality build. Again, if you do want to go with that shaved option, eliminate that Chevy grill entirely. You can certainly find similar options here on the site that will cost you a little bit less at the end of the day. Deliver a similar look and similar finish, but again, they are going to be lacking that factory Chevy emblem. Switching gears, let's get into the installation, and the site is going to call this a strong 1 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you about an hour or so to complete from start to finish. But to give you a better idea of just how this one might go down at home, here's a detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
The tools you'll need for this project are a ratchet, a long extension, a short extension, a 7mm and a 10mm socket, a number 2 Phillips screwdriver, a small flathead screwdriver, a pick, a trim panel removal tool, and possibly a pair of pliers. Hi everyone, today we're installing a grill on our Silverado, so let's get started with the uninstall. First thing we're going to do after we open our hood is remove this trim panel here below the grill so that we can have access to the 4 lower bolts that hold the grill in. First thing to remove this trim panel is to remove this screw just inside the fender well here using a number 2 Phillips screwdriver. And then you can do the same thing on the other side. Once you've got them both removed, just grab a hold of your end of the trim panel here and pull it away from the body. And just work your way around, and it should pop right off. Next thing we're going to do is remove this radiator cover here by removing the 12 push pin clips that hold it in place. So you're going to need a trim panel removal tool to help pop those up. You just get underneath the center edge, lift it up, and then you can pull the whole thing right out. And once you've got all your push clips removed, you can just lift up on the cover and get it out of the way. Now we've got 4 bolts along the bottom here, 1 on each end and then 2 in the middle. We're going to remove those with our 10mm socket, and then we'll remove the ones on top. Now we can remove the 4 bolts holding the grill in at the top, again using our 10mm socket. Now once you've got all 8 bolts removed, you should be able to just grab a hold of the front of the grill and pull it straight out. Now that we've got our grill off, there's a couple of things that we need to transfer over from the old grill to the new grill. The first being this shroud that goes to the back of the grill. And there's 14 screws that hold this onto the grill. So we're going to use our 7mm socket with an extension on it to remove these 14 screws. Now once you've got all those screws removed, you just lift up on this shroud and put it on the side. Now underneath that shroud where the screws were at, we've got some spring-loaded nuts in here that were the screws held into. So now we're going to need to take those out and transfer them as well. And you can use a small flathead screwdriver or a small pick like what I've got here. Now what you're going to want to do is get under the corner here or the edge and just start prying it up. And you might want to put your hand over it just to keep it from flying out because it is spring loaded. Now once you've got one of them out, you can just repeat that process for all the rest of them. Now the next thing we're going to remove is the emblem in the middle of the grill. As you can see, there's several pins here that attach that emblem. Now they're all plastic, so you want to be careful when you're taking these out. But basically you're just going to use a small flathead screwdriver, gently pry on the ends, and push this out. And do that for all the rest of them, and it should come out fairly easily, like so. Now the next thing we're going to have to take off, I'm not going to lie to you, are the most difficult part of this whole process. There are 4 spring clips that go here, 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 and here on the end. These are probably the biggest pain to take off of these studs that are on here than anything I've ever dealt with. The easiest way I can tell you to do this would probably be to go to your local Chevy dealer and order a new set of springs so that you don't have to deal with the process of trying to take them off of here. As you can see, we've got 3 studs that are already broken trying to get these clips off. But one way that you can do it is if it's on the stud already, use a small flathead screwdriver. You can stick it in through the top of this clip where it separates from the other side, and then pry up on this clip and actually separate it. Once you've got it separated, you can use your flathead screwdriver to go ahead and reach in alongside between the clip itself and the plastic stud and pry it back. You may also want to consider using some needle nose pliers or something like that. They are pretty strong. And then you can go ahead and pry this apart enough to pull it off of these studs. Now, the problem with that is you're going to have to put it back together in order to install it on the new one. So like I said, you might consider just buying a new set from your local Chevy dealer and just install them on the new grill, and then you don't have to worry about trying to get these off. Now that we've got everything removed from our OEM grill, we can start putting our new one back together. First thing we're going to do is install our emblem. Now you notice with all of these tabs on the back of the emblem, they are all strategically located so that it will only go on one way. So all you have to do is line up all of the tabs with the correct holes and go ahead and just press it in. Line everything up, set it in place. Push it down until everything locks into place. And now we're going to go ahead and reinstall our threaded spring clips. To do that, we're just going to put them into the location and press down. That'll snap them into place. And now you can do the same thing for the other 13. Our last thing to do before we can install the grill on our truck is go ahead and install these spring alignment clips along the studs on the back of the grill, and then we can go ahead and get it installed. Now, that being said, because they are so difficult to get off and put on, we're not actually going to put them onto our grill because this grill is not going to stay on our truck. But in order to put these on, basically all you have to do is set them over the stud, press it down until it locks into place at the bottom of the stand. Now, like I said, we're not leaving this on our truck, so we're not going to bother putting these on right now. Now we can go ahead and install our shroud on the back of our grill. Again, we're just going to use the 14 screws that we took out earlier. So we'll go ahead and get started, and then you can repeat the process for all the rest of them. We'll just insert our screw through the hole, tighten it down with our 7mm socket, and now you can repeat that process for the other 13. Now the last thing we need to do before we can install our grill is reinstall these spring clips along the 4 studs on the back of the grill. Now, because we're not leaving this grill on our vehicle and these are so difficult to get off, we're not going to put them on ours, but basically what you have to do is put these over the studs like so and just press it down until it bottoms out. Could be a little bit difficult. Hopefully it'll go on easy for you, but that's what you need to do. Now that we've got our grill put back together, we can go ahead and reverse our uninstall process and put this back on. Now we'll go ahead and secure our grill using the original hardware. And tighten it down with our 10mm socket. And we'll go ahead and reinstall our top bolts. And tighten them with our 10mm as well. Now we'll reinstall our filler panel. Reinstall our screws on both ends and tighten them down with our Phillips screwdriver. Now you can repeat that for the other side. And finally, we'll reinstall our radiator cover. And we'll secure it using the original push pins. And that wraps up our review and install of the Diamond Mesh Upper Replacement Grill in matte black finish for your 14 to 15 Silverado 1500. Thanks for watching, and remember, for all things Silverado, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.